Hey guys, welcome to my channel. Today we are going to doing what if Krillin was reincarnated. Also, if you like my videos, make sure to like and subscribe and hit the bell, and make sure you have it on all. With that out of the way, let's begin. Chapter 1. Truck-con happens. I was making my way from my shitty job at the convenience store. It wasn't anything big, I was the cashier. Well, I was also moving stuff from time to time, unloading the merchandise, putting it on the raft, stuff like that. I was only a couple blocks away from my house. As I was making my way on the crosswalk, there was literally no traffic, no cars, literally nothing. But suddenly out of nowhere, a big-ass truck with the ice cream logo on the side hit me full on. As it drove by my body and sped away, I could feel my life leave my body. I chuckled. Nothing important happened to me all my life. I was your average guy with average hobbies. A shitty 9-to-5 job to pay the bills, average grades in school, no girlfriend. All relatives already dead. I wasn't really bothered by my unseemingly close death. I just closed my eyes and let nature take its course, and take its course it did. The next morning on the news, my body was found on the crosswalk. It was painted as a tragedy by the media, and forgotten literally 3 seconds later. I found myself in a white room. I stood on a brown wood chair. In front of me stood an empty desk with no one behind it. I just waited. I couldn't move, nor talk. It was like I was frozen in time, even though I could still perceive everything that was around me. After quite a long time, a man dressed in an all-white suit with a fade haircut and a neatly trimmed beard came in with a pitifully small dossier of papers in his hands. He put on some black-rimmed glasses and started to read the papers, ignoring me completely. After what felt like eternity for me, but in reality was 10 minutes or so, he stopped reading. He put his glasses in his suit chest pocket and looked towards me with quite a peculiar gaze. It seemed like it was a combination of pity and what seemed to be also amusement. I could finally start moving as I felt the invisible constraints disappear. I started to stretch a bit and said, "Didn't expect purgatory to be like this." The man chuckled and said with amusement tinged into his voice, "No questions about who I am. Why are you here?" I shook my head and said, "It's obvious I still remember my death, so of course I was sent to purgatory to be judged by God, so of course you are God. However, I never thought that God would have such a fresh fade. You must have a really good barber." The man nodded and said, "Yes, indeed, I'm God." You had quite the abnormal reaction. Most people would shout and scream after they get unbound by the spirit rope. However, you were quite calm. I like that about you. However, now let's get to business. Also, thank you for noticing my new haircut. I nodded towards his words and asked, "So what now? Heaven, hell, reincarnation?" The man took the small dossier in his hands and said, "Not enough sins to be in hell, not enough good deeds for heaven. Reincarnation is an option, but I doubt you would like to live the same life on earth anymore. I could spice things up for you, since the life you have led up until now was so painfully average." At his words, a smile suddenly appeared on my face. "No eternal torment, that's at least good for me. Heaven would have been a better option. I was pretty done with life anyway, but reincarnation in a different world than normal earth sounded pretty enticing for me, so I bit what he fed me and asked, "So do I get to choose where do I get reincarnated or?" He immediately denied me. "No, you have no good karma. Good deeds get you in heaven, sins in hell. Good karma gives you benefits in reincarnation. Your good karma is literally zero. You are a blank slate in all regards for all of these things." I nodded towards his words and asked him, "So where will you send me then?" A cheeky smile appeared on his face after he heard my question and said, "Even though gambling isn't quite a big sin, you have indulged yourself quite a bit in it last life. God forgives and forgets, so it wasn't truly added to the list of your sins. It isn't anything major anyway, but it left something on your record that I know about you. So I decided in this situation to give you quite the simple gamble." A red card and a blue card appeared, one in his left, the other in his right. He put them on the desk and said, "Choose. I will not disclose the worlds you will go to until you choose one." Quite the annoying thing. I had only one chance at gambling myself into a good world. I didn't read many animes and mangas. I knew particularly few well. From what I inquired from his words, I guess he will reincarnate me into a world with superpowers, maybe even the DC or Marvel universe. I quickly stopped thinking. God wasn't rushing me either, so I decided to pick the blue card. It was my favorite color in my last life, so I just decided to go with it. I turned the card with its face upwards. On it there was an image with a midget with 6 small holes on his forehead, 3 on the left and 3 on the right. On the middle of his forehead, he wore an orange guy with a blue undershirt. His orange pants were hoisted by a blue belt, and he wore blue shoes with red lining. I recognized the look. It was Krillin from the Dragon Ball franchise by Akira Toriyama. I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I watched the original Dragon Ball, the Dragon Ball Z till the Frieza saga, Dragon Ball GT, and the whole of Super. And quite a few movies here and there when I was a kid and a bit in my teenage years, but I can't really say I knew everything about the franchise. I actually forgot quite a lot about it with time. But I still remembered a bit about the characters, their backstories, and how they ended up, etc. So did Krillin meant I was going in the Dragon Ball universe. That was kinda sweet, even though the universe was full of homicidal maniacs who destroyed planets with their pinky finger, and lazy cat gods who would destroy the being of someone, making them unrevivable, because he didn't get his evening pudding. As long as I played it smart I could avoid dying gruesomely. Or so I thought. God started to smile at me and said, "Oh, congratulations, Mr. Krillin-san, it seems you drew a good option. Let me reveal the other card for you." On the other card, there was a dark bluish-haired kid with a hairstyle that from the back looked like ducks behind. He had dark eyes, a fair face, and wore blue ninja-themed clothes with white parts at the cuffs of his shirt and white shorts. He also wore blue ninja sandals. The Naruto Universe by Masashi Kishimoto. Also, wait, what the hell? He called me Krillin. Does that mean the characters on the cards mean I will become that character in the universe? God damn it, I didn't want to become a midget. Well, at least I would have a hot wife in the future, I guess. But Sasuke was also kinda badass. I didn't know a lot after Shippuden because I stopped watching. There was also a Boruto anime that came out, but people said that it was kinda trash. It seemed to follow the kids of Naruto and the gang. Anyways, I truly didn't like that I was going to become Krillin, but there wasn't much I could do about that. God's smile told me that. He clasped his hands and said for the last time I could hear him in a very long time. "Have fun, Mr. Krillin. I hope you won't die as many times as the original." I just swallowed back the words that I wanted to say because I couldn't say them. My mouth wouldn't move, my body wouldn't as well. I was back to being immobile. I took one last long look at God's face as everything turned to dark. I started thinking about my next life when something suddenly hit me. That damn hairstyle was too fresh. Too bad I wouldn't have any hairstyle as Krillin. It would just look dumb on him. I always thought that, when he grew out his hair he looked quite bad. It seemed the bald look was the only one he could sport. He did look a bit better with short hair and Super, but his best look was still bald. I guess I would just have to rock the bald look from now on. Chapter 2. Krillin's parents in the temple. I suddenly started to see light. It seemed my journey finished, or so I thought, till I got hit on my buttocks and I started crying like the newborn I was. It hurt quite a bit to be spanked on the arse the moment you were born. I was held by the doctor upside down by my left leg, before he picked me up properly, and handed me towards my mother. She held me in her arms. It seemed she loved me if the expression on her face said anything. She wasn't particularly beautiful, she looked quite average. I looked around the room, and I saw my father. It wasn't really hard. Now I see where Krillin inherited his midget genes from. Well, my midget genes now. My father was as tall as I would be when fully grown, maybe a bit smaller. He had a clump of black hair on his head, and no visible nose. He motioned to my mother and said, "Can I hold him, dear?" She nodded her head tiredly. It seemed my birth sapped her off quite a lot of energy. I was in my father's arms now. He didn't seem particularly strong. I wonder where did Krillin get his martial arts talent from? Even though in the show he wasn't that strong compared to the whole universe, Krillin was quite a powerhouse in the top 20 of the universe, not including gods. He was just overshadowed by the Saiyans and androids and pink magic beings, and a whole lot of people he wasn't ready for. In my opinion, after Goku got very strong, the other Z fighters kinda started to slack off, thinking Goku would always be there to fight invaders, never truly training seriously. Only Piccolo continued to train till Pan's birth happened, and after that, he became a babysitter. Unknowingly to me, I was braced. While I was thinking, I was pretty much done with eating, after I came to from my thoughts. I was alone with my mother in the hospital room, my father nowhere to be seen. I guess he had a job or something that required his presence. I tried to move my tiny baby hands or legs. It was impossible. They felt like they weighed tons. My bones were also very weak. It seemed human children were born with power levels below 0. Goku was born with a power level of 2, that meant he was almost half as strong as a normal untrained adult human. Saiyan physiology was damn broken. While I couldn't train my body, I could train my mind. A clear mind was very useful for martial arts. My soul was of a fully developed adult, so I could try to do some mental training. But I wasn't quite sure how to train. I didn't know jack about higher mental training. Maybe I could try to envision something inside my mind, like, I don't know, a ball or something. I tried to concentrate on the rotund shape of a ball in my head, and well, nothing happened. I continued like this for a few hours before I grew tired and directly go to sleep. When I woke up, I was in a car. In the back seat my mother was crying. My father was solemnly sitting on the driver's seat. They fastly driven towards a nearby temple, and left me on the steps, and sped away in their car. I started to shiver. The stone steps were cold. No one was coming, so I started doing what normally a baby would do in such a situation. I started crying and shouting. The kindly-looking bald old man in a brown monk robe came out of the temple and looked down at me and said, "Another young life abandoned at our Warren Temple, Sai. Okay, young one, you are our 10th child this month. Let's take you in." He picked me up from the ground and took me in the temple. He called over a nun to look over me, while he got back to praying and meditating. I didn't know much about Buddhism, but this temple looked pretty Shaolin to me, or whatever they are called. It was a martial art Buddhist temple. The nun had me in her embrace. She suddenly noticed a note on my chest. On it read Krillin. She smiled and said, "So your name is Krillin, little one." I just giggled as any baby would do. Nothing else I could do right now besides interacting with her. After a while, she fed me with some baby formula, and she put me down on a mat down on the ground. It wasn't comfortable, but I could kinda endure it. She left me alone to sleep, but I didn't do that. I continued my mental training, focusing on a ball shape in my head. I could feel the ball, I could touch it, smell it, but it wasn't there. Was this what they meant by super imagination? Imagination so strong you could hallucinate and even think what you imagine is real. But it wasn't that I could feel my soul strengthening, it seemed mental training enhanced the soul. In my last life I never trained in martial arts, thus my soul grew only with age, so it wasn't particularly strong, but with the mental training I could do, and the Dragon Ball world laws it could strengthen at a fast pace. Maybe I could even get telekinesis like Frieza if I trained hard enough. While training my body and unlocking my Kai would take a while, training my soul would be done immediately. Even though it drained me quite a bit, I was already quite tired over a few minutes of training. I suddenly closed my eyes and started sleeping. When I woke up the nun was holding me, and she had some baby formula in her hands. She started feeding me and I accepted. Nothing much I could do as a baby, most I did was trying to stay up on my ass on my own and mental training. At first, I would eat to sleep after a few minutes of mental training. After a few months my time of training increased up to 15 to 16 minutes, also I was needing less sleep to fully recuperate. I also started to be able to move small things by a few millimeters. I could only push and pull, not levitate yet. I could also proudly say I could crawl like a pro and get up on my ass on my own. I was also introduced to other children and babies the temple adopted. There were 3 baby boys and 2 older girls. The girls were supposed to take care of us when the nun was busy. The girls were pretty attentive to us. The nun taught them well. One was a brown-haired girl with clips in her hair called Lulu. The other was a girl with blonde hair, angular face, and green eyes called Karya. The other 3 boys were called Tu, Zu, and Pru. They were brothers, all 3 abandoned at the same time, triplets. I didn't care about any of them. There were also older children here and there, but they were either getting trained by other monks or meditating. We were too young, so we were left to our own devices. I ignored the other children, and continued my mental training. Now instead of envisioning a ball, I was envisioning a pear. Well, I also envisioned how I took a bite out of it, how I ate it completely, and threw its remains in a rubbish bin. It was always good to change the things you envisioned so you wouldn't get bored fast. It also increased the training speed if you would change them regularly, as it would stimulate the mind and soul with different images and scenarios. The other children played together, ignoring me. The girls left me alone, only calling for me when it was time for food. My time in the temple was pretty uneventful. I could hardly wait to grow up, start training my body, unlocking my Kai, flying, shooting beams out of my hands, etc. It will be so cool, I thought to myself. As a kid I would always do the Kamehameha pose, but now in the future, I could truly throw one out. I truly couldn't wait, but time has to go before good things come. So I just continued to train my mental power, ignoring everything else unrelated. I was 1 year old now, and I could levitate things with my mind for a small amount of time. Of course, I showed no one about this. This was my little secret. I also didn't want to become famous and get recruited by that Master Crane. The children started to realize my behavior was odd, but I gave them no mind. They weren't important. Training so I could protect the planet that I live on, and get my hot blonde android wife, those were important things. I had set my priorities straight some months ago, and I decided I would only get Android 18 as a partner. Bulma was kinda annoying, even though she looked good. 18 was pure wife material. She was good with the kid and very supportive, or so it showed in Dragon Ball Super. She was also kind of playful and top 1 in the hottest of the Dragon Ball characters. Chi-Chi was too bitchy, Bulma was kinda annoying, Launch was Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, basically 2 personalities in one body, one cute and nice, the other angry, and not law-abiding. Master Rashi or Tien can keep her. The others would be too young for me later, like Vidal or her blonde friend Arasa. 18 was the best choice for me. So the future looked good for me right now. Psychic powers will be useful in the battles that are to come. I could also feel that my Kai would also get a boost when I unlock it from all my mental training. Maybe I could even get some better training methods from the temple when I grew up enough. It was a martial temple after all, they should have a full package of training techniques. Anyways, from now on, I could fully focus on my goals as my body and soul integrated into each other. After my first year of existence in the Dragon Ball universe, life will be good for Krillin. No more deaths as well if I could help it. Chapter 3. Mental and Physical Training. The time comes and goes and I was already 5 years old. It seemed Krillin wasn't born with those 6 dots on his forehead. I realized this when I looked into a mirror the nun had for some reasons I am not sure of. I looked like a normal kid, albeit without a visible nose, and just a bit shorter than normal kids. I wore a yellow monk robe on my body, and little shoes made from bamboo. The male children wore the same things that I did, albeit in different colors. The females wore big and long gowns that covered their whole bodies, showing only their faces. It was finally time for the physical training of the temple. Every child could start as early as 5 years old. My training in the mental department gave me quite the big boost already. I could move things on for hours. I could even lift other children. Well, they were asleep, but they weren't really heavy. Since we didn't eat very much at the temple, everyone weighed at a maximum of 20 or so kilograms. I didn't feel strained at all though. It seemed my upper limit wasn't there yet. I could also feel my Kai was ready to be unlocked. Right now, with the help of the training techniques of the temple, I could unlock and temper my Kai. The old man who took me into the temple came in front of us. We were in the temple's garden, the official training ground of the children. He had an amiable smile on his face. He was looking a bit more wrinkled than before. As 5 years had gone since I came to the temple, he started his instructions. There are 2 training techniques or in temple practices, one for body and one for mind. Everyone who joined the temple will learn them before they decide if they want to continue staying or leave for better lifestyle. We do not impose any rules on those who trained in our techniques besides not killing haphazardly and doing evil. The children listened quietly. They didn't truly know what evil was, so they just waited for the training instructions. The old man started to do some special poses like in yoga and started to explain to us. This is the body training technique. It's made so you can be flexible and also strong at the same time. While you do the poses, your muscles start to grind against each other, strengthening themselves while not increasing much in mass. This training technique is made to achieve a balanced physique. All in all, 30 poses would train all the groups of muscles. Each pose is training more than one group. This is the only training you will do physically since you are still young. We can't have you train your bones yet as they are still quite frail. You can start training them once you reach 8 years old. After you turn 11 you can also leave the temple, if you all wish so. The children quietly continued listening. Some of them looked at each other when they heard about leaving. It seemed not everyone liked the living conditions here. The old man sat cross-legged before us and started another explanation. As for the mental training, I will impart all of you a special chant that will strengthen your mind and wills. There's also a breathing technique, just watch me and copy. He started to say the chant out loud, and he breathed in and out in a peculiar method. This was great. With my prior mental training, I could combine the simple physical training with my mental training to get double the training speed. After he made sure everyone understood what to do, he left and called one of the older middle-aged monks to supervise us to make sure we didn't injure ourselves during the training. I started to do the poses the old man did perfectly, combined my strong soul. After 5 whole years of training, I could flawlessly remember everything I saw by only looking at it once. As I started doing the poses while reciting the chant and breathing in and out, I could feel the strengthening of my soul and muscles at the same time. My muscles hurt quite a bit as I didn't truly train my body up till now, as my body was too weak, and I feared that I would get some hidden damage that would impede my growth. But the pain didn't last too long, but I felt sore all over after 2 training rounds of the 30 poses. I could feel my muscles grow a bit, and my soul was also strengthened quite a bit. It seemed the mental training technique was way better than envisioning stuff. It was faster and more effective. Well, it also didn't put such a strain on my soul, but I could attribute that to my soul's already huge strength after 5 years of tempering. After I rested a bit, I continued with the poses. I could feel a heat spreading through my body. It seemed my Kai was going to unlock right now. I could feel it spread through my body, nourishing it, strengthening it. It seemed Kai had great benefits towards the body. Besides being able to fly, shoot beams, and do unnatural feats, it strengthened the body to a certain degree passively. If combined with conscious strengthening, which was temporary, as long as Kai remained, you could even punch a planet into dust with your physical body alone. As I felt the changes going through my body, searing pain started to go through my forehead. Immediately 6 dots appeared on it and they started to bleed. The middle-aged monk was surprised as he hurriedly made his way towards me. He inspected me, but he didn't see anything wrong with me beside the holes on my forehead. He took me to the resting area and cleaned my forehead off blood, and then took me to the old man. The old man was surprised to see the holes on my forehead, and exclaimed with a surprised tone in his voice. This little one talent is pretty high, being able to unlock the 6 dots of serenity after only 1 training session. He has a bright future ahead of him. I asked him what he was talking about in a childlike, oblivious voice, and he started to explain to me. The 6 dots of serenity are unlocked by our Oran's Temple special training technique, but it takes a huge amount of time to unlock them, and only extremely talented people are known for unlocking them. There has been only one other known person that unlocked these dots, and he was our founder. I nodded my head and I was excused. The old man only knew that the dots indicated talent, and not what they truly did. But I felt they were truly quite special. I was excused for the rest of the day, so I made my way towards the sleeping quarters. I could feel that the dots on my forehead weren't so simple. So I sent some Kai towards them. 1 dot started shining, and I could feel my whole Kai from my body going berserk. It was like I was twice as strong as before. I tried to activate another, and my body Kai went another upgrade to 4 times as much, but the consumption increased exponentially and I had to stop. It seemed every time 1 dot activated I would get double my power level, so technically I could get 64x my power level. The consumption of Kai was quite high, but I guess as my Kai grew, and I constantly trained in this special state, I could make the consumption negligible, or almost go away for full. That's like how Goku trained to be able to keep his Super Saiyan state on for longer periods in the hyperbolic time chamber. Now I had a technique that could make me keep up with the Saiyan's transformation well, at least Super Saiyan 1. Maybe I could put the cake in over the state, and maybe the full power technique of Rashi's to reach even greater heights of power. I wonder why Krillin couldn't use these dots to multiply his power in the anime manga. Maybe he never truly learned how. Or I could do it, because my soul was way stronger than his at the moment. It was a complete mystery, but it didn't matter. I could feel the Kai through my whole body, and I could surmise a bit of how strong I was. I couldn't sense Kai externally yet, but I could assess myself. I was pretty strong for a 5-year-old. I could say that my power level was almost 30, maybe 27 to 28. This was all only from my mental training over the years. I was almost half as strong as Goku was when he started his journey. For the plans of the future tough, I didn't want to remain a midget, and the first wish they would use with the Dragon Balls was quite a waste, so I decided when I turned 11, it was almost the same time when Goku would start his search for Dragon Balls. Goku started to train with Rashi 1 year later, so I would meet with Goku earlier, and while they would be captured by Pilaf, I would take the wish to wish that in the future, I would grow at least as tall as my mother. She was of average height, and I didn't want to become a giant. The full power technique from Rashi would also increase my height somewhat, so it was something as well too. For now, I will have to continue training using the poses and chant and breathing techniques of the Orin Temple. I couldn't wait as I was practically giddy with excitement at the thought of meeting Goku, the main character of the Dragon Ball franchise. He was one of my favorite characters, excluding Piccolo and Gohan. But I still had to wait quite some time, 6 years. But with those 6 years, I could increase my power level by quite a lot, maybe even reach 200 power level or so. By the time Raditz came, maybe I would be as strong as Vegeta. Let's not even take into account my multiplier technique. Life would be good for me as Krillin. Adventure and friendship were waiting for me right around the corner. Even love. I could already imagine my bald head smothered between 18's big breasts. Chapter 4. Adventure is behind the corner. I was already 10 years old. Time was going by so fast. 1 more year, and I would start my journey for the Dragon Balls, along with Goku and Bulma. It will be fun. I was in the training room of the temple. I was promoted from the garden 2 years ago when they saw how strong I was. It was at the time when they started teaching us how to strengthen our bones. We had to hit an iron sandboxing bag quite a few times to strengthen our knuckles. Humans didn't have many training techniques to train the other type of bones though, but I knew one training that would help, gravity training. But it was too early for that. I was still a bit quite young, plus there was no gravity chamber to train in. My mental training also came along quite nicely. I could lift giant stones with my mind, and I could keep them up for hours with no strain. I also started being able to read minds and memories. My psychic power was so high right now that it almost tangible. It was also quite heavy. I tried to feel it by pushing it on myself. This gave me an idea. I could pressure myself with my mental force field to make my training harder. It was a type of gravity training and resistance training at the same time. It would also strengthen my mind and soul. My Kai was also pure and more controlled. I could say that my power level was among the highest on the planet, maybe at 100 plus. I was stronger than Goku when he will start his journey, maybe by 2 times. My training speed was quite fast, but compared to a Saiyan's it was still lacking very much. But for a human, I was pretty much considered a genius that came by a few million years. Humans weren't particularly talented at martial arts. That's how they were built. The human Z fighters were true prodigies even among the universe. I'm not sure how all of them were born on Earth. As seen in the Tournament of Power, most of the fighters came from the Earth, Goku excluded. Maybe this planet had a destiny about it or something, I wasn't sure. The gravity training was exceptionally good at tempering all of my bones. All the weight put on my body, combined with the special poses from the temple, gave me double the training efficiency. I could feel my Kai and body grow stronger every day. I also sparred with the adult monks of the temple, even the old man. I needed some fighting experience. After all, I was strong, but I had no experience. As in my last life, I never went into a true fight. I didn't use my full power, and I got my ass kicked for a few days before things started to take motion. I learned extremely fast. By the first month, none of the adults was my match in the technique. I even gave the old man a hard time. By the second month of sparring, no one could fight me at all. They were all pretty strong and quite experienced. Most of them had a power level between 10 to 25. The old man had a power level of 30. When he was younger, it might have been even higher, maybe even 40 or so, but in his old age, his power levels started to go down and decline quite heavily. I also started to try to shoot Kai blasts and fly. It wasn't very hard. My Kai control was extremely good, because my soul was also extremely strong. I now also could turn on 2 of my dots on my forehead. That meant 4 times my power level. I could keep it up for 20 minutes at most before I was truly spent. Also, I tried to pry in the secret of Kai weapons and Kai shaping. The only thing I liked about Goku Black was his rose ore, and his damn Kai sword and scythe. They were so damn cool. So I tried to get my Kai sword. I failed miserably. Even though my Kai control was good, my Kai wasn't strong enough to become shaped yet. Maybe if I had a power level of 500 or above without the use of my multiplier technique, I could try again to create a Kai sword or scythe or weapon. I could even do mini Kamehamehas. They weren't strong, and they weren't truly the Kamehameha, they were beams. I didn't truly know the steps behind the Kamehameha fully to truly use it. Maybe if I saw Rashi do it, I might be able to copy it. I even forgone sleep to train more. Instead of sleeping, I would enter my special mindscape to spar with myself. It was a special type of training I saw Gohan and Krillin do in the anime. I think it was a filler episode before the fake Namek arc. My mind truly didn't need rest anymore as it was extremely strong, only my body still did, and it would still do in the future. It was a mortal body, after all. I guess only after I gained God Kai I wouldn't particularly need sleep anymore. Whis never slept, and Beerus only slept cause he was lazy. I think food wasn't needed anymore either. When you had genuine God Kai in a God position, Whis and Beerus enjoyed the food. But I don't think they were hungry since Beerus could go thousands of years without food, only sleeping. Whis too. Goku and Vegeta still needed food because they were Saiyans, and they didn't have a godly position in Universe 7. Also, I would never imagine Goku or Vegeta ever stopping from eating food. They liked it way too much. All of the children from the temple avoided me. I was a freak in their minds. I was too strong. I even beat all the adults, and even the old man, which he was the head monk of the temple. It was almost time for me to leave. There was nothing I could get from the temple anymore. I got whatever belongings I had and packed them up. It was still not time to go to Mount Paozu. There were still 5 months left, but there was nothing to do at the temple anymore. I left after giving my goodbyes to the old man, the monks and the nun who took care of me when I was little. They didn't stop me. They knew I was extremely strong. They weren't worried, and they respected my wish to leave the temple. I was wandering around the city. It was West City. I never left the temple during my training period, so I didn't know in which city I was. I bought a map with my meager savings, and looked for Mount Paozu. It was quite a distance from West City. It would take me at least 10 days by flight. I could rudimentary sense Kai now, so all I had to do is avoid Goku till Bulma came and train on the mountain. I nodded my head. Everything will be easy peasy for me. I was already so strong, nothing could go wrong. But before I left the city, I got some special magazines as I needed them for Master Rashi later, and I didn't want to have to go back to the city and waste my time to get them. I kept them in my satchel along with the clothes that I got from the temple and some Jenny. I started flying and I made my way towards Mount Paozu. It was so good to fly. I felt the wind brushing against my face. It was calming and peaceful. I didn't fly particularly fast. I was enjoying the sensation. My blackish aura encased me as I flew. Sometimes I would land to rest or get something to eat from a nearby village that was en route. After 10 days of flight, I arrived at Mount Paozu, and there were only a few more months before Bulma was supposed to make her entrance. It was simple to live on the mountain. I could also feel Goku's Kai since he couldn't mask it, and he was the strongest being on the mountain. I lived off fruits and animals. I also intensified my training here, since no one could peek on me here. I could endure basically what was 2 times Earth's gravity right now. I could intensify the gravity up to a maximum of 10 times with my mind. It would increase with time and more training. Months went. I could finally feel the presence of someone else making their way towards the mountain at a relatively high speed. It was Bulma. Time for the original Dragon Ball adventure to start. It will be a load of fun for me, since I always dreamt of touring the world. Since I couldn't do it on the normal Earth, I could do it in the Dragon Ball Earth, and also gather special balls that could give me one wish yearly. Chapter 5. The Dragon Ball search starts. I could feel Bulma's Kai getting nearer and nearer to Goku's. It was time to make my entrance. I flew nearby the road and observed how Bulma crashed into Goku with her motorcycle. That was my cue to go in. I descended and made my way towards them and said, "Are you guys okay there?" Bulma looked annoyed when she saw it was only another kid. Goku was protecting his fish. It seemed he just came back from fishing. Goku frowned and said, while pointing towards Bulma with his red power pole, "I'm okay, but this monster tried to eat me and my fish." Bulma replied angrily towards Goku, "It's not my fault you suddenly appeared in front of me. I do not want your fish. Also, I am not a monster. I'm a delicate girl." Goku put his guard down when he heard she was a girl and said, "Oh, you are a girl. Grandpa said to be good to girls." Bulma smirked and said, "It seems your grandpa is a smart man." Goku replied with a sad look on his face, "Yeah, Grandpa was pretty smart." When Bulma heard the word was, she immediately tried to console Goku by saying, "I'm sorry, I didn't know your grandfather passed away." Goku just shrugged all the sadness away, and I interjected into their conversation by saying, "Well, I was training nearby when I heard crashing sounds coming from here. What's up with you guys?" Bulma seemed annoyed at my question, but she still answered by getting out a radar with green glass that had some glowing orbs showcasing on the screen. "I found this Dragon Ball back home, and I read about it that if you collect all 7 of them, you can get one wish from an almighty dragon called Shenron." I nodded towards her explanation and asked a question I already had the answer to. "What are you going to wish for?" Hearts appeared in her eyes and she blushed before saying, "I wish for a perfect boyfriend." I sweat drop. I didn't know how it was physically possible to get hearts in your eyes. I shook my head left and right and said, "That's quite a waste of a wish in my opinion." Bulma immediately got angry but stopped and looked towards Goku, seemingly remembering about something, and said while showing him an orange rattan ball with 2 stars on it, "Do you have a ball like this one?" Goku nodded his head and said, It was Grandpa's, he found it in the mountains. Bulma grinned and said, "Could you show me it?" Goku looked towards Bulma with suspicion in his eyes. It seemed he didn't want to give Bulma his ball, but nodded reluctantly while saying, "Well, Grandpa said to be good to girls, so I can't say no." I looked at the iconic Dragon Ball scene unfolding before interrupting it by saying, "Can I come as well? These Dragon Balls sound interesting." Bulma was ready to refuse, but Goku agreed. I followed them towards Goku's home. It was pitifully small. On a pillow on a pedestal was the 4-star Dragon Ball inside the house. Bulma got near it and started cheering. She was ready to take the ball in her pouch, but Goku used his power pole to defend it and said, "Even though you are a girl, you can't have Grandpa's treasure." Bulma suddenly started to lift her pink skirt and said, "If you give me the Dragon Ball, it will be worth your time." Goku sat with a puzzled look on his face. "Why would I want to touch your dirty butt?" Bulma started fuming, her whole face becoming red like a tomato, and she asked in an angry tone of voice, "Who has a dirty butt, you brat?" Goku nonchalantly replied with "you." Bulma was ballistic, but she knew she could do nothing to Goku. Before me intervening into their conversation, she already crashed into him with her motorcycle, and tried to shoot him with a machine gun. Ended just like in the anime. Bulma started to explain to him that she wouldn't take the ball forever, and after she had her wish she would give it back to him. Goku didn't bite it, and said that he wanted to journey together with her to make sure he got his ball back. I suddenly made myself more noticeable and said, "Since you are going to a worldwide adventure, can I join you guys?" Bulma was ready to reject me as she didn't like me for some reason, but Goku responded in her place. "Yeah, sure, you can come, you seem strong. What's your name?" I responded with a smile on my face. "I'm Krillin, what about you two?" Bulma looked towards the side, pouting. She didn't like how Goku ignored her opinion and said, "Bulma." Goku smiled and said, "I'm Son Goku. When we met you said you were training around here. I want to fight you." I chuckled. His Saiyan instincts were already in full flare. Even though he couldn't sense Kai at all, he could feel my strength. I nodded and I got into a normal fighting pose learned from the temple and motioned towards him with my hand and said, "You can come anytime, Goku." Goku didn't wait even a few seconds. He ran towards me with quite the high speed, but I could see him easily. Bulma was flustered. Goku was near her, and she fell on her butt due to how fast Goku ran towards me. I sidestepped his punch, and gave him a Kai-infused punch to the gut. It was a one-hit KO. Well, not KO, as I didn't make him unconscious. His 2 hands on his belly, Goku got up and said, "You're strong, I don't think I can beat you." Bulma's jaw hit the floor. If Goku was so abnormal, she wondered how strong was I when I one-shot him. A smile appeared on her face. With 2 bodyguards like me and Goku, she thought that the Dragon Balls were already in her hands. She tried to take the 4th star ball, but Goku stopped her again, and said that he would carry the ball the whole journey, and no one else can touch it. Bulma agreed. She couldn't do anything about it anyways. We made our way back to the road, and Bulma popped open a capsule, the thing her family was famous for, and a motorcycle with 2 seats appeared. She looked towards me with a fake pity look and said, "Unfortunately, Goku destroyed my other motorcycle, and this is the last one I have. It seems you can't join us in our journey." I smiled and started levitating. Bulma's jaw hit the ground again, and Goku looked amazed at my feat of flying. Goku immediately asked me how I did it, and I said he would learn it by himself when he got stronger. He just took it as the truth, and nodded his head. Bulma picked her jaw from the floor, and got up on the motorcycle, motioning for Goku to do the same. Goku imitated her and got on the motorcycle. She started it suddenly, and started to speed up. In a few seconds, she was already over the hill. A smile appeared on her face as she thought she outsmarted me, but in a hem from above her immediately awoke her. She looked up and just continued to drive normally. I guess she finally gave up to get rid of me, huh? After a few hours of traveling, we stopped in a plane, and Bulma opened another capsule that contained a house. Goku freaked out and asked if she was a witch, forgetting how she did the same thing with the motorcycle. Bulma started to explain to Goku how the capsules worked, but after the 3rd try she gave up. I made my way inside the house. It was fully furnished with beds, kitchen and bathroom. Bulma took Goku to take a bath, and I fixed myself a quick meal in the kitchen. Goku got out of the bathroom looking fresh, and 20 minutes later Bulma came out too. I also took a bath and we all gone to sleep after. Well, they did. I continued to train in my mindscape, so it wasn't considered sleep. The next day I was awoken by the scream of Goku on how Bulma lost her balls. I chuckled. Bulma immediately got up from the bed and ignored my chuckle, getting her hands on the Dragon Balls and said, "It's okay, Goku, it must have been a nightmare. The balls are alright." Goku just shook his head, and didn't say anything. After a few hours, we met a sea turtle by the name of Shockingly Turtle. We gave him some salt water despite Bulma's protests, and he asked us to take him to the ocean. We agreed again despite Bulma's protests at the mention of it. Master Rashi was just around the corner, and the 3rd Dragon Ball as well. Chapter 6. Meeting with the pervert, Bacon and Yamcha. Before we could start our journey to the ocean, a giant humanoid bear appeared before us, and told us he followed the turtle to us, and that he wanted to eat it. Goku didn't want to give him the turtle, thus he attacked. He easily fell after Goku gave him a punch between the eyebrows and died instantly. Bulma was scared even more of Goku now, seeing how he instantly killed the bear. I just nodded my head. Goku was very strong, and his potential was extremely great. Even though he was born with a power level of only 2, he could train and get stronger extremely faster compared to the other Saiyans. Taking comparison, his mother, who only had a power level below 1000, and she lived on planet Vegeta her whole life, Goku trained on 10 times normal gravity for below a year, and got a power level of 8000, which was considered middle to elite class. Not all Saiyans were talented, but they were more predestined to getting stronger and fighting compared to humans. But there were also humans with more talent of fighting than Saiyans, but in general, Saiyans were stronger. As I mused about the differences between the races, Goku already started to cook up the giant bear to eat it. He even asked me if I wanted some, but I just turned him down. I wasn't an eating machine. Even though martial artists have higher metabolism, they still ate just 2 times or more compared to a normal human. Goku ate 100 times or more. After Goku got his fill, we started our journey towards the ocean. We enjoyed the scenery while traveling. It was pretty relaxing and fun to travel the world. Goku also enjoyed it, formed down on the motorcycle. We arrived at the ocean, and I could say it was quite beautiful, sparkling clean water. The boundlessness of the blue beauty was quite breathtaking. The turtle thanked us from saving him from the bear and getting him to the ocean, and he said he would inform his master about us, so he would reward us. It took quite a while for the turtle to go and come back, but when he did, a bald old man with a beard and sunglasses came. He wore a tropical orange shirt with palm trees on it and white shorts. He also had a walking cane in his left hand, and he wore a purple turtle shell on his back. He came forward, getting off the turtle, and started blushing when he noticed Bulma. Bulma looked away with a disgusted look on her face, but when she noticed the dragon ball dangling on his neck, she immediately said, "Old man, because we saved your turtle, you should give us the necklace that you are wearing." The old man scoffed and said, "I heard about how you didn't want to help turtle, so I won't give you anything. Only these 2 boys helped, so I will only give them gifts." He looked towards me and Goku and said, "I can give you eternal youth, just wait a bit." He did a pose and shouted something about a phoenix, but the turtle reminded him that the phoenix died of food poisoning. He sweat dropped and shouted, "Flying Nimbus." The yellow cloud made his way towards us, and the old man continued by saying, "This is the flying Nimbus, only those of pure heart can ride it, try it." Goku easily got on the Nimbus. I also tried to ride it, but I just fell right through it. Bulma stuck her tongue out at me and said, "It seems you aren't of pure heart like a maiden like myself." She tried to get on the Nimbus only to fall on her butt. She became red like a tomato, and didn't say anything. Master Rashi started to caress his beard. Goku could use the Nimbus, but I couldn't. He truly didn't know what to give me, but I gave him an idea. "I know you are, old man. You are the turtle hermit, right? I would like to train under you, after I finish my journey around the world with my companions. How about that as a reward?" Rashi nodded his head. It was simple for him to take me in as a student. When Goku heard about it, his eyes suddenly enlarged, and he said that he also wanted to become his student. Rashi agreed, as he didn't find any trouble with that. He could feel Kai, and he could tell we were both strong. I lowered my Kai a bit, so he wouldn't be suspicious of me. Bulma persuaded Rashi, and she finally got her hands on the Dragon Ball at the price of her showing her whole body to Rashi. We left a knocked out old man with a severely bleeding nose on the beach, and made our way towards the next destination on the radar. It was a small village with a few houses. No one was around. The place was pretty deserted. Goku made his way inside one of the houses, and he was hit on the head with a big axe. It shattered on contact with his head, but he still nursed the wound, and he seemed pretty annoyed. But the man who hit him quickly excused himself by saying that he thought he was the demon Aling who came for his daughter. All the people made their way out of their houses and started to explain about their predicament. Bulma asked about the Dragon Ball, and an old woman from the crowd said that she had one, and that it was her family's heirloom, and she couldn't part with it unless we beat Aling, and we got all the girls he kidnapped back. It was easy peasy. A big red humanoid with horns made his way inside the village. It was Oolong. Before he could do anything, I karate chopped him on the neck, and he transformed back into a pig who wore a green military uniform. The villagers immediately started rioting, realizing they got scammed by the pig. When the pig came up too, and he saw he was tied to a tree, he immediately tried to transform and escape, but I just slapped him a few times. He realized how strong I was and gave up. He immediately did as he was instructed by the villagers. We made our way towards his mansion. There we found the girls sunbathing and drinking cocktails. Aling was happy that we came to take them. All they did every day was complain and take his money. We kidnapped Aling and made her for the next Dragon Balls, but something was strange. They disappeared and appeared randomly. We couldn't truly pinpoint their exact location, as they were sometimes moving as well. We made our way towards the desert. That was the general location the Dragon Ball resided in. We were in a boat which Bulma was driving. Oolong tried to escape again, but Bulma fed him a special kind of laxative which, when triggered by her words, made him come back so fast we didn't truly see if he left at all. We now were in the desert in a special capsule motorhome, and we were eyed by a certain sand bandit. He made his way towards us with his hovering vehicle, and said in a domineering fashion, "Get out of the motor house and hand over all your capsules, and Zenny, you are robbed right now by the great bandit of the desert, Yamcha." The little hovering blue cat was standing beside Yamcha and said in a low voice, "That's right, the great Yamcha will rob all of you." I let Goku deal with him. Now he wasn't hungry, and he easily beat Yamcha in the ground like the scrub he was. Yamcha ran away with his tail between his legs, especially after he saw Bulma. He had that I see krillin getting flustered and weaker. We made our way through the desert unknowingly from my other companions. Yamcha was following us. He didn't know about the Dragon Balls this time as he got beaten, and he couldn't eavesdrop, so I wasn't sure why he was following us. We made our way towards a nearby town to restock on gasoline and food. We were met a special type of guys. They wore militaristic uniforms and bunny ears on top of their heads. They tried to rob us. They got their ass kicked instead. They came back with a rabbit human-looking guy. He tried to use his powers on Bulma, but I just kicked him in the chin. He was down like a baby. Nothing he could do. After that I made Goku use his power pole to extend it till he reached the moon, and leave the weird trio there. We have almost gathered all of the Dragon Balls. My wish was near. Now I just had to let Pilaf capture them while I was away, then knock out the Pilaf gang, and use the Dragon Balls for my own. Easy plan, with an easy execution. Everything was ready for my wish. Now it was only a little bit of time, and traveling till we could get near the Pilaf gang's castle, so they could attack us. Chapter 7, The Pilaf Gang and the Wish. We were in the motor house as we traveled the arid desert. Goku was panting, his tongue hanging outside his mouth. Oolong was doing the same. I was taking in the heat as a form of training, and Bulma was drinking a cool glass of juice. Oolong was giving Bulma the stink eye. While Goku was licking his lips, he was thirsty. Bulma motioned with her hand towards the glass of juice, before downing it thoroughly before their eyes. Oolong was almost ready to go berserk, and Goku seemed sad. His tail was twitching. The Dragon Ball radar suddenly started bleeping 3 dots nearing our 4 on the green glass screen. It was the Pilaf gang. They took the opportunity of Goku being weakened by the heat to steal the Dragon Balls. I didn't interfere, as I needed them to do that. They immediately ran away with their special robot suits. We followed them using the Dragon Ball radar, and we arrived at a giant castle with a mushroom-like roof. Yamcha was right behind us as he followed us in. The castle was a maze, and we somehow met face to face. Yamcha was flustered when he saw Bulma again, but Bulma was drooling when she took a better glance at him. She liked his bad boy look, and his wild mane of hair. Yamcha didn't know what to do or what to say, so he just ignored Bulma. This made Bulma want him even more. It was a bad boy situation. I sweat dropped at Bulma's antics. She really could fall very easily for a pretty face this early. Suddenly we were trapped inside a cube-like room, and a blue midget who wore a colored hat, a woman who wore a military uniform and had long hair, and a dog who wore a ninja outfit appeared on the screen. The midget started to laugh out loud and said, "You got captured by the Great Pilaf special room. There's no chance for you to get your Dragon Balls back and impede my plan of world domination. Hahaha." The midget seemed pretty lively, but he started to gawk when he saw Goku make a small hole in the wall. He immediately pressed a button to release a stream of green gas out of the walls. They were all out like a light, well besides me. My mental training was not for nothing, and my body was almost very strong, and encased in invisible kite, thus the gas couldn't get to me. But I still faked fainting to make Pilaf think he got everyone down. When the monitor disappeared, I got up the ground and made my way towards the nearby wall. A Kai-infused punch immediately made a hole big enough for me to get out by myself. I let the guys sleep there. It was my time to shine now. With my Kai sense I found the Pilaf gang reading some books about how to summon the dragon. It seemed that's why in the anime it took them so much to summon it. They didn't know how. I knocked all of them down easily. They couldn't even put up a fight. The girl tried to shoot me, and the dog tried to cleave me with his sword. Both gone down very easily. Let's not even talk about Pilaf. Well, he was pretty smart, and he could even help Bulma fix the time machine in the future. Strength will be never his forte. I got the Dragon Balls and made my way outside. It was time for one of my many wishes to come from this green dragon. I put them all on the ground and said the simple words that were needed to summon the almighty dragon. It could give you a plethora of wishes. Arise, Shenron, and grant me my wish. The long tail started to come out of the Dragon Balls. As it made its way out, a long green Chinese-style dragon appeared in the sky. The sky also turned black, as if it was night when Shenron made his debut. He asked in a booming voice, "It has summoned me, the almighty Shenron. I can grant you one wish." I immediately started to formulate my wish in my head before saying, "I wish that in the future I would grow to at least the height of 1 meter and 79 centimeters, but make it so it doesn't look awkward or forced. Make it look like I grew naturally, and that was the original height that I could reach." The dragon's eyes glowed and he said in a booming voice before disappearing, "Easy wish, it's granted." The Dragon Balls took the sky and they were ready to leave, but I jumped up and took the 4-star Dragon Ball before it could leave. Goku still needed his Dragon Ball, or he would get grumpy. I decided to wake them all up so Goku wouldn't transform into an Izaru and get his tail cut. Also, I didn't want to fight him. His power level would be almost 700 in that form, and I couldn't light up my 3rd dot properly yet, for an increase of 8 times my power level. Even though my power level now reached 150 or so, he also increased from 54 to almost 76. It was a hasty estimate as I wasn't a scouter. It could be lower or higher for all I know. I just estimated my power compared to a normal human, and I was 150 times stronger than one. I walked back into the castle with a petrified Dragon Ball in hand and woke them all up. They were all groggy, but when they saw me with the rock-looking Dragon Ball in hand and the big hole in the wall, they all started to question me on what happened. I, of course, lied saying that I got up by luck because a random rock from the ceiling hit me over the head, making me awaken when I suddenly saw that the sky go dark and the imposing dragon outside. I hastily made my way outside before Pilaf could make his wish, knocked him up with his cronies, and made another wish instead. When they asked me for what I wished, I just told them it was a secret. I also handed the 4-star ball to Goku and explained how it became like that. Goku naturally cherished the Dragon Ball as it was his last remaining memory of his dead grandpa, and he put it in his guy's chest pocket, keeping it safe. Bulma was fuming and glaring at me, saying that I wasted the wish, but I just nonchalantly said that her wish would have been even more of waste. She was so angry flames were basically getting out of her head, but I just ignored her. While we made our way back to Mount Paosa, we found a goddamn whole mountain on fire. It was the Ox Mountain, the property of Ox King. I remembered now one of the Dragon Balls was supposed to be taken from here in the Anime, but the Pilaf gang already had all 3. I wonder how they got them. Ox attacked us thinking we were burglars that came to take his riches, but after explaining that we couldn't take his riches, even if we wanted to, he calmed down. Then he started to explain how he sent his daughter Kai Kai for the mystical Bancho fan, which Master Rashi had. Unfortunately, she still didn't make her way back with it. Goku gave himself up to help, so he made his way out with the Nimbus, and returned with Kai Kai after a long while. Master Rashi in tow as well. Master Rashi berated Ox King being one of his few disciples, Gohan being the other. Goku also informed Rashi of this, and both Ox King and Rashi asked how he was. Goku said sadly that he passed away quite some time ago. A somber air enveloped the men who knew him. Master Rashi came up empty-handed though, as he wasn't sure where he left the Bancho fan, so he just scratched his beard and after a while said, "Well, there's no Bancho fan. I can put the fire out with my special technique, the Kamehameha wave." Ox King nodded and Master Rashi immediately buffed up from his scrawny old man look. He now looked like an old man who hit the gym all his life, and maybe even took a bit of steroids. He started chanting as he cupped his hands together. This was the time for me to learn the Kamehameha wave as well. I widened my eyes to thoroughly study the way Rashi used his Kai to create the wave. He firstly cupped his hands and put them on the left side of his body. As Kai started to rotate into his hands, the Kai immediately started to gather up, and he started to rotate it even more. The centrifugal force in his hands was extremely strong. "Kamehameha!" he shouted as he put his hands forward and blasted the fire and mountain into smithereens. Everyone's jaws were on the floor. Yamcha muttered something about strong old men. Goku immediately copied the Kamehameha wave by making a smaller, weaker version of it, which dented a nearby red car. I also copied it, but my Kamehameha wave was way bigger and stronger than Goku's. I could even make it as strong as Rashi's, but I decided it wouldn't be good to surprise the master too much. Master Rashi's jaw hit the floor after that. How he saw both of us being able to use the technique he wasted 50 years on being used after a few minutes of observation by 2 brats that weren't even 14 yet. Master Rashi immediately picked his jaw up from the ground and coughed, while saying with a proud look on his face, "These 2 are some of my brightest disciples." I pointed out how we didn't train with him yet, and he deflated like a balloon, losing face in front of his former students. After that we were going for our different routes. Master Rashi and Goku were gone for the training, and Bulma and Yamcha made their way to East City where Bulma lived. We all made our goodbyes to each other. Goku still got captured by Kai Kai as he left for quite some time before he came back to us to get back to Rashi's island. Rashi opened a capsule and out of it came a yellow plane with the CC logo on it. We all embarked it, and he drove it towards his island. The flight was pretty slow and relaxing. Immediately that we landed, he said, "Even though I accepted you as my disciples, I still need you to do one task before I can truly start training you." As he said that, a blush immediately got to his cheeks and blood started to spill out of his nose as he continued. "I need you to find me a pretty girl and get her to live here." Well, it seemed we still had to get launched. Poor girl, I even wonder what was her true backstory. She was forgotten so hard by Toriyama that we never saw her character get more depth, besides having a double personality and being of somewhat comic relief. Whatever, it was time to get her to this perverted old man's house, so he could start to give us his training techniques. I didn't think that the anime showed everything. There must be some breathing technique of the turtle school, besides the Kamehameha. He could also teach me his buffed up state that I dubbed as the full power technique. I could stack it upon my 6 dots, and get an even higher increase in my power level. Yes, the training and the Budokai Tenkaichi were just around the corner. I could smell them. Also, I had some more wishes that I wanted to Shenron to grant. Even though being tall was great, I already had some other things in mind. Eternal youth was only one thing that I wanted. Others were still on my mind, thinking about their feasibility if this dragon could grant them. Well, there was still 1 year before I could use the Dragon Balls, so there was still quite a lot of time which I could use by training as hard as I could under Master Rashi's tutelage. Chapter 8. Training with Master Rashi. We used Goku's flying nimbus to look around for a girl, and as fate decreed, we found Blonde Launch being followed by some cops. We swooped in and took her on the cloud, leaving the surprised and befuddled cops behind. She at first tried to resist, but she sneezed and turned blue-haired. She asked us some questions, and we answered that as best as we could. We got back to Rashi's island with Launch in tow. Rashi immediately started whistling when he saw Launch, but she sneezed and turned blonde and aggressive before sneezing again, and turning back to docile. Rashi sweat dropped but accepted her nonetheless. At least he had a living woman he could look at instead of his dirty magazines and his workout show. Rashi coughed a bit and started to explain how he would train us. I already knew about all of that. He also informed me and Goku about the Budokai Tenkaichi tournament, and how he would like us to enroll in it. In reality, he would enroll too, and try to beat us. So we would think there are better people out there than us, and make us never stop training and lose our passion. Rashi took his house in a capsule, and took us to a different island, a populated one which was pretty big. His first task for us was like in the anime, to find the inscribed rock he threw out. I easily got it, and made my way back with it. Goku tried to fight me for it when I found it, but I beat him. It was a bit harder than before as he grew stronger, but I didn't exert myself too much against him. Rashi nodded his head towards me, and for that day we were done. We ate the food blue-haired Launch prepared for us, and well, Goku ate almost everything, and we could only eat a little bit, even though we were martial artists that needed a higher calorie intake. Unlike Goku, we were humans, and our bodies didn't need such a high intake of food. We ate more than the normal human eyes, but Goku ate more than hundreds of humans combined. I was flabbergasted at the sight that was in front of me. I never thought someone could inhale food at such fast speeds. It looked comically in the anime, but now that I had seen it with my own eyes, it was pretty horrifying. Launch just smiled and nodded at Goku. She even wanted to give him seconds, saying that she cooked enough. I don't know how could this woman cook such high amounts of food. She was almost equal to Kai in cooking. After the feast and the night's sleep, Rashi tested us on our speed, telling us about the limits of the human body. Goku neared the limits by a few milliseconds while I broke them easily. Rashi's jaw was on the floor, not even he was that fast. After that he also did an example, and he was a bit faster than Goku. Unlike in the anime, after this he imparted to both of us a special breathing technique and a mantra specialized from the turtle school. I could immediately say that it was way more effective than Orin's temple one. It put it to shame. It was like the difference between the sky and earth. I could feel my Kai around my body. It ran way smoother than before, like a calm ocean, but it could also transform into a storm of Kai at only a thought. The mantra also increased my mind cultivation speed, but for Goku it just made his Kai grow faster. Unlike me, he didn't unlock his mental strength from a young age, and he will unlock it later on Namek, as seen in the anime where he reads Krillin's mind. After he imparted us his techniques fully, he started to tell us in detail how the training from now on would go. This is the special turtle school training for the body and mind. Well, we will also make the money to feed us with it. He started to explain how we will deliver milk, help at construction work, dodge bees he will throw at us, and swim in shark-infested waters. And so we started with the milk delivery first. It was easy peasy for me. My training from before already made my body quite strong, and my mind was really firm. Goku was having a harder time than me, but not by a lot. He didn't even look winded, but he was sapping his energy by quite a bit. We had to go in zigzag. When we found trees we had to walk up a lot of stairs. Rashi was observing me, seeing that I wasn't challenged by the training. He pondered if I needed to start using weights already. After we delivered the milk, it was time for construction work. The special thing was we had to use our hands to dig, and we could only use some tools. We also did field work for some farmers. The swimming, dodging and the other training were gone almost immediately after. Goku was left panting and weak on the floor while I was a bit winded by the training, but not by much. Rashi nodded his head and pointed towards me while saying, "Your body is already very strong due to your prior training, I guess, so I will need you to wear this." He produced a big turtle shell which, when he dropped on the floor, it made a loud clang. It was quite heavy. As I put it on my back, it was 50 kilograms or so, and it impeded me by a bit. Rashi nodded his head, but Goku said he wanted to wear one too. After a lot of insistence from him, Rashi gave in, and gave him a 20 kilogram shell. I also used my gravity field around me to increase my gravity by 2 times. The training was way harder than before with it on, and I could feel my Kai strengthen and purify itself, while my muscles became stronger and my bones hardened. My organs also became stronger. Almost all of the zeni we made was used on the food we consumed, with a very little minority distributed between the 3 of us, as Rashi participated in the milk training as well. After quite a while of training, I asked Master Rashi to teach me his full power technique. He agreed to say that I already was quite strong, and I could learn it since I was his student. He also said that he wouldn't have taught me it if I didn't ask about it. He wasn't a responsible teacher when it came to techniques. Rashi immediately started explaining how the technique worked. He infused his muscles with Kai, but not a lot, as to not reduce his speed by a lot, as the more Kai expended into the muscles would put more of a strain on the body and bones, reducing speed and increasing consumption. The full power technique was doing what its name mentioned, bring out the full power of the human body. Its multiplier wasn't much, it was a 1.5 increase in power level, but it could be stacked with other techniques, so it was all good. It took me a while to master combined with my daily training, half a year gone by, and there were only 6 more months before the Budokai Tenkaichi would start. We also talked with Bulma on the phone, and she told us that Yamcha would participate as well, good for him I guess. After 6 months of training, my turtle shell weight increased to 80 kilograms and I used 3 times Earth gravity on myself. Goku's shell increased to 55 kilograms. He was getting strong fast due to his Saiyan biology. He also saw me as his rival, and he wanted to fight me and beat me. His Saiyan blood told him to. We also sparred a lot during these 6 months of painful training. We learned everything that was to learn about each other, and we became great friends. Goku was a fun guy to be around. He exuded an aura of friendliness and innocence. Even though he wasn't that smart due to his accident and upbringing, he wasn't annoying. He was just a bit slower. Rashi also taught us basic things like math, biology, etc. I took them in easily, but Goku was quite hard-headed, and it took him way more time to learn what he taught us. But unlike in the anime, he started to learn. In the anime, Goku didn't care about such stuff, but when he saw how easy I picked up everything, he started to take these things seriously too. Did I make Goku smarter by competitiveness? That's how Saiyans get smarter. If they get beaten by someone in fights, they start to try to one-up, or catch up that guy in literally everything that guy excelled in. Maybe that's why Vegeta, who had such immense pride as being the best at fighting and a super elite, started to take Goku as such a big rival, and never gave him a breather. It was the Saiyan blood in him which clouded his mind, especially when Babidi took over. After the 6 months, I asked Rashi to teach me one of his least known techniques. It was a thundershock surprise. When he asked me where did I know about it, I answered with a lie that I made up, on how I met someone who fought him in the past, and that he used his technique on him. Rashi bought my lie since he fought lots of opponents in the past since he was really old, so he might have thought he forgot about such a time he fought someone, and he used his thundershock surprise. I learned the technique easily. I also learned the technique not because it was strong or anything like that. I needed to learn how to transform Kai into lightning. After a while of contemplation, I realized that I could copy Kiryu's Godspeed from the anime manga Hunter. If I could incus myself in lighting, my thought process and my body speed will be extremely high. Maybe it would be like the Kaiken technique where it would even multiply my power level by a bit. So I started to train with the lightning Kai. After I mastered the full power technique, the next 6 months I also upped my shell's weight and the gravity. Goku upped his as well. We trained and fought and repeated these actions continuously. As Rashi saw how hard we trained in secret, he also started to train extremely hard, so he could become stronger than us, and teach us humility during the tournament. 6 more months gone by and we were almost at the day the tournament would start. Rashi gave us the go to let the turtle shells fall off. I also stopped using the gravity field. It was like I was a feather. I checked my Kai with my Kai sense, and I was pretty surprised. My power level increased almost to 250, and Goku's was 170, Rashi's was 260 or so, maybe more. My influence on the world made others grow stronger by seeing how strong I was. In the original, they weren't this strong like at all. At this pace Raditz would get shit on by Master Rashi. Poor guy, I almost felt sorry for him. Whatever, who cares about him? Rashi took his house in a capsule after he came out of it wearing a black suit and a red tie and a black fedora. He had his cane in his left hand and 2 briefcases in his right. He gave us the briefcases inside were the suits like his, and behind the suits were the original turtle school uniforms, the orange and blue combination with the turtle kanji symbol on the front of the chest and the back. We both thanked Rashi, and we took his plane to the Papaya Islands where the tournament would be hosted. After we got there we met with Bulma and Yamcha at the registry. We all registered as we made our way inside. Master Rashi also registered under the alias of Jackie Chun after we left him alone. Bulma was waiting outside with Oolong and Pure when Rashi excused himself, saying he needed to go to the bathroom. Now we were all in the preliminaries room waiting for the random draws to see which opponents we would have. So guys, that is it for now. Make sure to like and subscribe, that helps out also. If you made it to the end of this vid, comment number and vid gang. Anyway, that is it for now. Goodbye.